Hey, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Greg, we're talking a lot about robots lately. A lot of robots. We've got Tally, the robot that does inventory. We've got an autonomous container ship, which is kind of a head scratcher for me because how many people are on a container ship?
I didn't think very many.
No. And then on more practical uses for autonomous vehicles, we had Sam's Club and Gatik, which is also working with Walmart on some deliveries, announcing pilots in Dallas Fort Worth for autonomous deliveries. And I find that fascinating because, number one, driving in DFW or on any Texas highway is like Frogger. If you can survive in DFW, you can survive anywhere. And then the other thing is that it's of course it's Georgia Pacific, it's toilet paper and stuff like that. It's not actually fresh produce, but I really think that this could be the beginning of something interesting.
Yeah, I think we could say the future is here, and I think smart companies know that the driver shortage and diesel prices and all these things in the supply chain are not going to be short-term problems. They're going to be long-term problems along with labor. And the sooner you can get going and start piloting things, especially at commercial levels, the quicker you're going to get this all out of some of these hassles out of your way and dealing with some other parts of your business.
Yeah, and this most recent deal is an announcement from Gatik and Sam's Club, and they're delivering to the 34 DFW area Sam's Club, doing direct store deliveries from the Georgia Pacific warehouse. And while from the top view, it's like this is paper products, this is toilet paper, but it's like how many really big distributors are there in Dallas that could do direct store deliveries to Sam's Club stores or to Walmart stores, probably not to Walmart stores just because of the way they work, who could just be the next guy in line to be piloting one of these programs. I could see that expand very quickly. And we're seeing a lot of companies lay the ground. I mean, a lot of things going on that are laying the groundwork for expansion of autonomous vehicles. We saw a pilot that was a load of watermelons from what was it, Nogales to Oklahoma, I think it was last summer or the summer before. And it was kind of like, oh, wow, it's really happening. But now we're seeing not just the long haul loads. And then, of course, the government's making it a little bit easier as well.
Oh, right. Kansas is one of the states that now allows autonomous trucks on the roads. And if anyone's driven through Kansas east-west, it's pretty much straight shot for 6 hours of nothingness.
I used to make that commute actually from Topeka to Manhattan. It is 6 hours of nothingness. You see the mountains and you think I'm close. I'm so close. You're not, by the way.
No, when you look on a map and go from Kansas City to Lawrence, which is about half an hour, Lawrence with University of Kansas, it's another 6 hours almost to the Colorado border. And so when I was in college, I used to just call everything west of Lawrence, Western Kansas, which people actually from Western and Central Kansas do not think is funny.
No, they do not think it's funny. When I worked in Manhattan, which I called the edge of civilization, like clinging to the edge of civilization, that's still one gas station away from Topeka. And it is run out of gas territory. But to see these types of things, I doubt an autonomous truck would run out of gas, by the way. It would hopefully be smarter. C.H. Robinson also had a news release this week talking about some of its digital things where it's working with pricing and being a little more responsive digitally. And then Giant Food launched a electric truck fleet for its deliveries in Washington, D.C., Maryland, that area.
Fleet is kind of generous, isn't it? 2 trucks.
Well, I mean, it's a start. And this kind of goes along with what I saw at South by Southwest. They had a futurist, and this futurist guys are always really either way out there or pretty reasonable. And this was on the reasonable scale of it. And he was talking more about resources and allocation, and how everybody wants the idea of an electric car or something like that to obviously get away from gas prices right now, right? But the most effective place to put those, given that they have extremely limited resources, we're going to run out of the metals that you need to make these batteries very soon, is fleet vehicles. When you think about a personal car sits in your driveway 97% of the time pretty much, but a fleet vehicle is out on the road, 50, 75% of the time. So it makes much more sense to see these go into that use rather than your home vehicle, your vanity vehicle, I guess. So I think a lot more businesses are going to be taking a look at this, and a lot more companies are. I mean, look at Amazon. It acquired Rivian, which is the electric truck company. So I think we'll see this expand over the next couple of years, and then just add the autonomous thing onto it already. It's already got a big old computer in there to be an electric vehicle. So adding the guidance to it probably is not that huge of a step.
No, it's builds upon my conversation a couple weeks ago and the videos on our site with Syed Aman, CEO of Highway Haul, who talked about the future of the digitization of transportation. And he said, kind of like the produce industry, in that it's not so much a digital industry like compared to so many other industries. I think he said something like, right now, transportation is 8 to 10% digital, and the next decade it'll go up to about 50%. So what does that look like? Some of it will be autonomous trucks. A lot of it's better software throughout the supply chain, which is what his business is in. But it's definitely going to be coming. And I like to make fun of futurists too, because if they were so smart, they'd keep their mouth shut and invest in what they're predicting. Instead, they make money being futurists. But anyway, I totally agree with him. I think down the road, the realistic path of electric is in commercial uses, whether it's trucks on the road or within a facility. We've had story about electric forklifts. All that stuff makes so much more sense than personal vehicles. There's just too many people and too many different kinds of lifestyles. Like people who, the way they live in New York is not the way you live in Miami or rural Georgia. Our industry, it's not a big city industry. A lot of it's in small towns, and you need to have a vehicle to get around. And that's one of the frustrating things watching government leaders kind of poo-poo gas prices. Like, they don't need them where they live, their lifestyles, the rest of America does. And it's making a big difference. I mean, we could talk about inflation every single week on this, but it's good that we're getting away from it for a week.
For a week at least. Let's switch from inflation to a more fun thing, is food safety. I mean, why not? The International Fresh Produce Association held its town hall this week, talking about putting the F back in FDA, or should we, and Richard Smalley suggested, remove the F from FDA. Do we need a food safety agency or a food agency instead of a Food and Drug Administration?
Well, Richard wrote an opinion column, and he did that earlier this week, talking about the need to create a separate food agency. And then it just so happened that the town hall this week was on FDA, and I was on that too. Richard ended up writing the story. The consensus definitely is that there's a huge problem, and I don't think there'd be any argument to that. The separate food agency is one solution. I mean, we had maybe a better system before, when it was a little more streamlined, when Mike Taylor was in the FDA office. I think the bigger problem, and it's similar to the gap analysis story we've had with PBH, the bigger problem is that government agencies are prioritizing other things than food safety and fresh produce nutrition. And that's something that the industry, no matter how it goes about it, has to impress that upon our government leaders, that these are big issues. And if you deal with these issues, a lot of the other issues in society would go away, especially when it comes to nutrition. But that doesn't seem to be what they want to do there. and it's nonpartisan. It's been going on that way for a long time.
Yeah, it's been going on that way for decades. I mean, I can remember when I first joined the produce industry, just trying to get Wic vouchers for fresh produce was already a decade in the making, and they finally got it, and then it was like $8 a month. Yay.
Right. It was
So,
basically nothing. And then, you know, they do stuff like vouchers for farmers markets. Like, get real. Nothing says incentivizing like subsidies, and nothing says punishing like taxes. So if they were serious, it would be something like subsidies for good stuff and maybe even taxes for bad stuff. I mean,
you
that's
know,
getting
but
serious.
I think they have a little bit of a difficult time getting that past Pepsi and Coca-Cola. That's, you know, one of the problems with it being a governmental issue. But we'll keep
Well, we can see
watching.
who's in charge, right?
Right. I think that's about it for this week for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.